Hey everybody, welcome to House Calls the podcast. I'm coming at you from Sherwood Forest Athletic Field, the Roman Spartan Field. This episode is called Not Just Another Game. It's about the history of Sherwood Forest Lacrosse, as well as the Cornrows Lacrosse game. This is the 25th anniversary of the Cornrows Lacrosse game. We are dedicating this episode to Eric Roddy Smith, number 26. So Eric was a great teammate and an even better friend. He spent countless hours on this field playing lacrosse, talking about sports, girls, and what's in the fridge. And he loved playing cornrows lacrosse, loved playing with his friends, family, and neighbors. And he was even a really good wrestler. So welcome to House Calls the podcast. Today is a very special podcast, and we're going to have multiple guests on this one. And we are talking about the history of lacrosse in a very unique community called Sherwood Forest. So Sherwood Forest is on the Severn River, which is a river on the Chesapeake Bay, about a mile down the river from the Naval Academy. And there were 341 homes at one point. Now there's about 330. And in this very small community, there has been a large number of lacrosse players that I think everybody will find very interesting. A little background about the community. It is a huge sports community and a lot of sports fans in the community. It's the type of community that everybody will show up and watch our favorite 3-on-3 basketball tournament, even though I think we've probably had just one person ever make it to Division I basketball, maybe one or two. We have had an Olympian play basketball. There's some sailors in the community, an Olympic sailor, a national champion sailor. We love golf. Maybe a couple people are good enough to win a club championship. We've had a couple tennis players who are good for their age group, some college tennis players. But where we are really good is two sports. The one is swimming. We can all swim. Every kid, when they go to college, even if they never want to race in the community, they always comment on how much better they are than the general public. And the other sport is lacrosse. We have a strange number of really good lacrosse players, really average lacrosse players, and players that just like to have fun. So to start off, we're going to discuss the history of lacrosse in this unique community with Rick Hook. And Rick's background is he played lacrosse at Villanova, he played lacrosse at Calvert Hall, and he also played for the famous Mount Washington Lacrosse Club. If you're wondering why he's wearing a West Point t-shirt, many of his grandkids play lacrosse, and his oldest grandchild is starting off at West Point right now. So that's Finley Dancy, and her mother, Mills Hook Dancy, was also a great player at UVA and St. Paul's for Girls. So we're going to get into it and go from there.
All right, Rick, thanks very much. So we're talking about lacrosse here.
Yes.
Why do you think there's so much good lacrosse in Sherwood Forest?
I think it's because it started, actually the history of Sherwood Forest Lacrosse started about 100 years ago. And if you like, I'll go through some of the statistics.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it'd be great.
We've got 182 men and women combined that played college lacrosse. 133 played Division I lacrosse. And so far, 35 of that group has made All-American. 10 are in the local chapter Hall of Fame, and 8 more belong in the National Hall of Fame, which really is the best of the best. We have 2 Olympians, lacrosse participants from Sherwood Forest. One is a guy named Bill Logan, who's the former club manager and a resident, played All-American at Johns Hopkins. He won a gold medal in the 1928 Summer Olympics. The second Olympian is a guy named Mo American, again, Johns Hopkins, All-American lacrosse, also a gold medal in the 1932 Summer Olympics. And some of the more interesting things is how many of the Sherwood Forest kids and older kids were actually captain of their lacrosse team. And I counted with Ty's help, 30 were captain of their lacrosse team. On the professional side of lacrosse, we have 7 in Sherwood Forest that have played professional lacrosse. And the other lacrosse interesting thing in Sherwood Forest is how many coaches have we had in Sherwood Forest, both college and high school. And my latest count is 10. And we probably have the most famous coach is Acasia Walker Weinstein, who's the head coach at Boston College. She's won 2 national championships and 7 Final Four appearances. And she was just named the head coach of the Senior Women's 2026 World Lacrosse Championship in Japan. Sherwood Forest has many great traditions, and I know you're going to talk about the cornrows lacrosse later, but I'll throw one of my traditions in there. We have a group of what we call the Old Timers Lacrosse game from Baltimore. We used to play it on Wednesday nights at Boys Latin. We've been doing that 35 years here in Sherwood Forest on the Sherwood Forest Flats. And each year we dedicate that game to one of our lost buddies, and we've lost 8 in the last year. And as Ty mentioned, I've got a personal connection with lacrosse, 4 grandchildren playing lacrosse, and our oldest daughter, Finley, is now at West Point. So it's an amazing lacrosse community.
It really is. It runs deep and it's generational, which I think is very special. And
4 generations, I would say.
Absolutely. And one of the great unique things about Sherwood, and we all understand lacrosse, it's depending on your age and abilities, there's different scales. But what I like about the community here is that the annual Sherwood Forest Corn Roast Lacrosse game, and that you've been instrumental in shepherding through. What year coming up? It's coming up. And what anniversary?
25th.
The 25th anniversary is coming up. Ty, have you ever played in that event?
So I have, and we are going to, with another guest, discuss all the great memories. And my attitude is going to be the legend is better than the truth when we discuss that.
That is your thing in everything we talk about.
But there is something I think we should mention is that Sherwood has a camp program that is now going on 105 years where kids play all sorts of sports. Lacrosse is not fundamentally part of the camp. There's some after camp activities, but kids definitely who have had great success in sports generally go back to their start of playing sports was in camp, and they find it instrumental. The other thing is we talk in Sherwood about people who are insiders. An insider might be like Rick is 2nd generation, his grandkids are 3rd generation. We have people who have been here for 4 generations, 5 generations, even 6 generations. And there's a joke that Sherwood has 330 houses and 2 families. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but there is a sense that sometimes everybody's related. Like my uncle is married to Rick's sister. And some of these kids who are insiders, if you go to camp, you're considered an insider. So some of these lacrosse people, some of their greatness came because they went to that camp. Then there's the outsiders. There's people who, and some of the outsiders are people like a Joe Callan, who came in, had a great career, but then raised his family in this area. Or Ryan Wade, who also had a great career. They were both some of the best players of their generations and both chose to raise their kids here. And then you have the outlaws. You have people who married in. So that would be like an Andy Whiteford, who was on the world team, star player at Loyola, raised her kids here. And Brian Martin, who is the only person in NCAA to be first team All-American in lacrosse and soccer. And he married in and raised his kids here. So it's an interesting combination of the kids who went to camp versus the people who married in versus the people who moved in and raised their children. With the coaching, we got to remember Acacia is the most famous coach, but we also got Brian Holman, who coaches the Boston Cannons. And we have people like Brian Wood, who is the long-term coach at Severn. We have Ruth Schrum, who started a couple girls programs, definitely Indian Creek down the street, and I think some other ones. And then we have all the great Little League coaches.
We got Mac Ford, too.
And Mac Ford, yeah. The interesting thing is that, and I'm going back to the 80s, just in a few years in camp, you had Del Dressel, who was a 4-time first-team All-American. You had Mac Ford, who was player of the world in the World Games. You had Brian Wood, who was a 4-time All-American player of the world, all relatively the same age, which is interesting. And then in the more recent generation, you've had 3 Twerton Award finalists. You've had Jack Fracione, you've had Marcus Holman, you've had Jake Caraway. And then even last year, you had several high school Under Armour All-Americans. So you had Tucker Wade, Jack Fracione, Race Ripley, and Hook Dancy, all on the same field at the same time.
Very
so that's
cool.
Really interesting.
Absolutely.
And what's amazing, any weekend you go out in Sherwood Forest, you drive by the lacrosse field, there's a father or a mother out there playing with 3 or 4 kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or an uncle. It is so generational down here, more than any other place I've seen.
Yep.
Now, a little trivia. Who's the only person to play Division I lacrosse and Division III lacrosse without switching schools?
Besides you?
No. It wasn't me. It was close to me.
Peter Smith?
Peter Smith
Yes.
at Washington and Lee. 2 years of D1 lacrosse, 2 years of D3 lacrosse. And while we're talking about D3 lacrosse, Blake and Bo Wood are the only brothers to be All-American at Tufts, which is the top program in D3. And Bo went on and played a few years of pro lacrosse.
Right.
So, ultimately, we had all these lacrosse players, and there became a time where we said, let's all play each other in a game. And we started off, which is a long Sherwood tradition, of playing the married versus the singles. And that goes back to a softball game that went on for hundreds of years, or not hundreds of years, 100 years. And that was basically every single Sunday, the married men would play the single men in softball with stats and batting champions. I think your brother was a batting champion several times.
He's a switch hitter.
Yeah, switch hitter. And it was really, so ultimately people said, hey, maybe we should have a lacrosse game where the married played the singles. Well, lacrosse is a little bit different than softball. So you think, how could the married guys compete with the single guys? Well, 25 years ago, the men who were all around 30 to 45, they actually played in a summer league team and won the Maryland State Championship with all people from Sherwood Forest. And ultimately, they did not go to the national title, but the team that they beat won the national championship. So when you say, was the game pretty fair? The married men won most years. I'm going to let somebody else talk about the women's game, but the married men won for the first couple of years. And if you look at the lineup, it's because of how amazing the lineup was. And it was a unique lineup where literally the entire attack was in the Hall of Fame. But that's why the game started. And as the years have gone by, some of those guys retired, some of them got older, and it got too much to keep up with being married singles. So that's where it became cornrows lacrosse and became the model of in school versus out of school. But Rick, you were more around when that was happening. So do you have any details about the early days?
I just remember that the younger guys always beat the older guys.
Right.
And then we started to balance those teams so that it was fair. But it always was kind of become the old guys against the young guys. Even today, I see like it's more like the old guys against the young guys. And it's a fairer game.
Yeah, until there's a lopside, and then they start switching guys around.
So whose idea was it to start the game?
The original, I don't know who.
I thought it was John Cheek suggested it.
The original married single game?
Said that we should play a lacrosse game. And then there's a special player, Lou Allen. What was his role in the game?
Lou Allen, I guess his nickname was Lou Could Not Stop a Shotsky. And he dressed up as a female goalie.
A different time.
And he played in female. I've actually got a picture of Lou, and he had a brassiere on with Mac Ford and Mills Hook.
Yeah.
And Lou Could Not Stop a Shotsky, the Russian keeper.
That is great.
And Lou will not be here this year, but he's coming next year. He'll be 70 next year. He wants to play his final game at age 70.
Oh, great. So the original year, I remember being on the field and looking up that first game. I hadn't touched a stick in 10 years. And to my right is Brian Martin, who was an All-American. To my left is Doug Poindexter, who was an All-American. Brian Holman, All-American at Hopkins goalie, was in the goal. At the attack was John Cheek, Mac Ford, Brian Wood, all in the Hall of Fame. And the midfielders were Matt Lewandowski, who was a All-American at Delaware and played for the Baltimore Thunder. And then at the two wings were James McIntyre and Billy Rule, who both played against each other in multiple national championship games. And I'm like, what am I doing out here? It's just the orthopedic surgeon. I guess I'm here if somebody gets hurt. But it was super fun. And there were some great memories of those games and some great moments. And the one thing you said about how the team started to get unbalanced is it is a smaller field.
Yep.
We don't body check. We say light stick checks, but that doesn't always happen. So the smaller field lets the old guys stay in there a little bit. But we started basically drafting whoever was the best player on the other team. So there was definitely a game where the married guys won 8-7, and we had a sophomore, Marcus Holman at Carolina, and we won 8-7, and he scored 7 goals.
I remember one story. Eddie Morris was in the goal. My brother Bruce Hook was the defenseman. Billy Rule is coming down the field, fast break. He starts to wind up. Bruce just runs to the side. Eddie hits him right in the chest. He had a chest protector on, but he had a hard time Last time he ever played in the goal.
Yeah, that would do it.
And we also say no body checks, but there is a famous thing where Tad Sheehy, if anybody knows Tad Sheehy, he is a big, strong guy, and he showed up a little late and missed that part of the speech where
right.
Rick used to tell everybody nobody wants to get hurt because we're all going to the event called Cornrows after. Tad didn't hear that, and he hit somebody as hard as I've ever seen hit. That kid's parents were not happy.
Yeah, Tad ran over this young man, just literally ran over him.
It was so funny watching your mom and dad come out and, make sure you're okay. Anyhow.
And on the women's side, we've had several women play pregnant. And when we talk to some people on the women's side, we're going to verify who those were. But I think it's 2 or 3.
Absolutely.
And I think one of them was a strong 6 to 7 months pregnant and was still playing, which was really cool.
And the cool thing, men and women, again, it's the generations. Yes, you have to play with all-stars, but it is actually, there's 2 great things I see. I love it when I see father-sons get to be on the same side of the field. That's really cool. It's great when you see father against son, and like when Roddy, strips Ty when Ty doesn't pass. And then, but the other part of it, there was a third part of it that these guys, the kids that are younger, and they finally get to play in this game because they're all these young guys who can't wait to play this game, and they get to play with guys they watched play in college. Like when Ty gets to play with Mac or Brian Wood, it's a big deal.
Well, it's funny. Mac was my high school coach. So I'm 32 years old and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm getting to play with Mac, and the generation thing is really cool is that my uncle, Pete Smith, who played at Maryland, was their leading scorer, I think his senior year. Right. He got to play with his son, Peter Smith, who played with me at Washington and Lee, and his grandson, Brandon Smith. So it was 3 generations on the field at once. Cool. And it was an exciting time. And now his other grandsons have played and his granddaughters have played. Right. So it's a cool thing.
Last year, we dedicated the game to Eric Smith, who passed away at a very young age, played at Cornell, number 26. And this is Pete and Judy, my sisters and brother-in-law's son.
That's right. Eric was my cousin, my best friend, one of Matt's best friends. And that was one of my special things, was playing with my cousin Peter and Eric. Eric was a great player, and that's why a lot of us on Cornrows wear number 26 hats, because that was his number at Cornell.
And they just dedicated Fatali's Landing to Eric Smith, which is another.
The other generation one I'd always remember is there's been a couple guys who never played lacrosse, but they kind of watched their kids. They played in the backyard, and they want to play in the game. And you're playing against some serious high school, at least, or college players, and some of them can pull it off. So I think back to Eddie Bradley, the second, was playing against his son Bennett, and he really wanted to play. And literally his first step, he pulled his hamstring and he was done. But then there's been other guys who did not grow up playing lacrosse, who are athletic, who were able to pull it off. I can think of Patrick Devitt, who when he left St. Mary's was the leading scorer in their basketball team, St. Mary's High School in our area. And watching a 6'6", 6'7" guy running down the field was great. Another one was Bo Hallworth. So he played tackle at Naval Academy. And watching him run down the field at 6'6", 310 pounds, everybody got out of his way.
No one got in front of him.
No. Like Moses part in the Red Sea.
But I remember last year, each year we have an MVP for the boys and the girls game. Last year, Ty House is one of the MVPs, probably the oldest MVP we've had.
Probably.
Because he was the only one on the committee, right?
No, we made the...
No, it was a spectacular day.
So
Sherwood's a small microcosm of the big lacrosse world. Yep. But have you seen the changes in the lacrosse game, men's, women's, just through the eyes of a Sherwood fan?
Yeah, I'd say most of the changes I've seen have been in the women's. I started coaching my daughter Mills since she was probably 12 years old in Towsontown. I've gotten to know her coach, Julie Myers, at UVA, and all the coaches I see at these resorts. We have these conversations, and the coach will say, it's amazing how the girls' game has changed. And I said, Coach, there's one thing that hasn't changed about the girls' game. Oh, what is that, Mr. Hook? It's the fathers who don't know their ladies' rules but have an opinion about it. That hasn't changed. And they all say, oh, you're right about that, Mr. Hook. Yes, sir. You're right about that.
So it's funny, in the Cornrows game, the women always play first. Matt and my younger cousin, Carlos Fernandez, took over from Tom Halsey and Joe Schramm as the voice of Sherwood Forest Lacrosse. So this year I helped them as an analyst in the booth.
Spotter.
And I was really paying attention. But I am amazed at how amazing the girls are at lacrosse. And it reminds me of how 1980s guys lacrosse was, very much of a all passing, stick work, fast,
good fundamentals,
just an amazing game. And the Sherwood women are so impressive. It's a really impressive game.
Well, it's amazing how the girls' sticks have changed. I know, and the boys' stick also. I can tell you the first stick that my father got me at Backrack Raisins, it was probably 70 years ago. It was about $5. We just gave one of our grandkids a stick for her birthday, $325. So it's incredible.
So that was one thing I was going to ask in particular to this community, which is we kind of said, although there's a lot of sports going on, it's kind of a lacrosse community. When I was growing up, kids were always walking around the neighborhood playing pickup on a Saturday or Sunday. After your rec league game, you would be in Sherwood and you'd be playing catch and playing with your friends, and you kind of always had your stick by your side. You don't see that nowadays as much. It's because they have so much club and all those things. But you do see kids out at the field all the time, shooting, working out, doing sprints, doing agility. When you were growing up, was there an aspect where kids were playing lacrosse, or was it just at your school lacrosse season? Like, were kids ever walking around playing pickup or carrying sticks?
I grew up in a neighborhood. It was Jim Corcoran, Ozzie Johnson Cowan, me, and a guy named David Johnson. And we would play on the road, just throw the ball around on the road.
Yeah.
But it was only during the season, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever, when growing up in Sherwood, was there much lacrosse, or was it just something you did when you went home?
Pretty much we went home.
Yeah.
Pretty much the season was over by the time we got to Sherwood Forest.
Yeah, and there was no summer league or anything.
Right.
And there's something to be said about that, right? Because then you learn to play tennis. You're a great rackets player. And so you learn other skills and that you can transfer to lacrosse and to other sports. So there's something to be said about the diversification of sports that you guys all play instead of being one trick ponies.
Yes.
So very cool.
Hey everybody, so this is part 2 of our Sherwood Forest Lacrosse history and history of the Cornrows lacrosse game. We just got done with Ricky Hook, so you know a lot of the background. And ladies first, we're starting with the women's game. So today with us, we have my favorite cousin, Stacey Fernandez. No offense to everybody else. And we have Acasia Walker Weinstein, who is most well known for qualifying for the Pro-Am golf tournament.
Yep.
She's an excellent amateur golfer, but apparently she played lacrosse at University of Maryland, where she was an All-American. And then coaching, she won national championships at Northwestern, as well as at Boston College, where she is now. But her favorite thing about lacrosse is cornrows lacrosse. So this is going to be great. We're going to start off with Stacey, because my memory, and I want to know if this is true, is we already got into Ricky about why there was a men's lacrosse game. And I'm pretty sure the loudest voice in the room was Stacey saying, and there's going to be a women's game. So do you remember anything about that?
What I remember was before the cornrows lacrosse game even started, was Andy Whiteford, myself, and Amy Mortimer decided that we wanted to play lacrosse on a Sunday afternoons. So we grabbed Matt Mylander, I think, Ann Egan, Ruth Strom, and probably Neville Gardner. And we would go out and people would come out and we played about a 6-on-6. And then I think we did that for a summer or two before the cornrows lacrosse even started. And then the men started to have a game. I can't remember if we had our first game when you all had your first game, or if we rose a stink and then said we want to play too, which is probably how it was.
For those of you who don't know Stacey, that's a solid bet. And if you don't know Stacey, and if you need a riot started in your neighborhood, that's your guy. That is your guy.
So my memory also is that, as we mentioned in the last one, we do have a fairly well-attended 3-on-3 basketball tournament with very average, would be kind basketball. And Stacey insisted that the women have a 3-on-3 tournament also. And you guys did play one year with many of the same women, Amy, Ann Egan, and a long 9-year-old Elena Deladon.
Who dominated.
Yes.
It's average. We put on our team as the creator.
But that never took off. But Cornhusker Lacrosse, you guys did play the very first year.
Yeah.
And it was just the continuation of when I was young and we would be in the backyard playing. Stacey always came out. And today I actually came in with a tennis tournament idea I had on. And immediately Stacey started yelling at me because I wasn't including the women. So
I love it. I did.
So now, enough about Stacey. To put this in reference,
I won't talk anymore.
Baloney.
Stacey's quite a bit older than Matt and I,
True story.
and we are quite a bit older than Acacia. So Acacia, Acacia, those first couple games, you must have been in high school.
Yeah, I was young. I want to say it was college. I want to say college. Because when did it start? When was the first game?
25 years.
25
This is the 25th
Okay,
anniversary.
so okay.
So what are your memories of growing up in Sherwood, playing lacrosse, going to camp? How did it affect your career? And then what were your a lot of questions at once.
All right.
Keep going.
I think Sherwood sort of shaped like my whole adult sports life because of what we learned in camp and competing, and but lacrosse wasn't the center of my life. Sherwood camp was the center of my life. It wasn't until I was a little bit older in high school when lacrosse sort of became my love. But I think the competitive nature and sort of the spirit of Sherwood camp is what drove me to want to compete at a really high level. And I just happened to be down the street from Maryland. But I remember those early years playing the Cornhusker game. I remember being really nervous for it. And just, I love playing with Molly Ford. I love playing. I'm trying to think who else we were there. Molly Ford and I always had so much fun. Brooke Richards.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just so cool because we were competitors. We were playing against each other, me and Molly. But yeah, and Brooke and I were actually teammates. But it was so fun to then be able to weave lacrosse into the culture of Cornrows weekend and Sherwood. And
so, were you nervous at all about Stacey yelling at you?
No, I'm like, I'm just gonna you stay on Stacey's good side. She won't yell at you.
Well,
we all
exactly.
know that.
We all know that.
No,
Okay.
I remember always like.
I'm just asking. I'm a journalist, okay? I can ask whatever I want. Okay, it's totally fine.
No, I was always and remain enamored by Stacey. I just remember being like, I want to play good with people that are like our heroes.
Absolutely.
So.
And it's fun, honestly, to get on the field with your hero.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's awesome.
It's the greatest.
Oh my gosh. And the men too. I loved the men. Like I loved watching the men play. I loved being a part of the women's game. There's so many great players on both sides.
Absolutely.
I remember when Nevi and Cammie were like, oh my gosh, their first year they get to play with the kids. Like that was such a big deal, and it continues to be a big deal for all of the girls that get to play with you.
Do you remember thinking to yourself, there's some old ladies out here, like some of these are moms?
Yeah, definitely. I remember not being totally sure how hard to play.
Yeah.
But I also felt like I wanted to play well. I wanted my team to win, but how hard are we supposed to play?
Right. And you're like, Stacey's 6 months pregnant. I got to be careful this time.
But now I get it. Now I'm on the other side.
Correct?
Yes.
Do you remember who they were? Did you play pregnant?
Say
Acacia?
No, I played with knee injuries.
Melissa Hayes.
Melissa Hayes was pregnant?
She may.
I'm going to say Mills possibly.
Mills.
That answers some questions.
Yeah. I could be wrong. I could have played pregnant. I can't
You were so drunk back then. You don't remember. That's fine.
So to mention some of the father-daughter combinations, from Sherwood, we have Kelly Calhoun and Joe Callan, and we have Matt Ford, Molly Ford, we have the Holmans.
Sydney was
Are there any big mother-daughter combinations that have played in that game? Andy and Cammie played against each other.
Yeah.
You played against Nevi.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys?
We have lots of sisters in
Right.
there. I feel like the McClay sisters.
Oh yeah, the McClays. That's right.
The Fords,
Right,
obviously,
a lot of
Abby
cousins.
and Molly. Yeah, a lot of cousins.
Yep.
I don't know if there's other mother-daughter.
Now, do you have any memories of any like specific games where somebody who was really young had an amazing game and you're like, wow, that person's going to have a great career? Or even somebody old who you were like, wow, they still got it?
Yes, I remember playing with Molly Ford one time,
and I think she had like 11 goals or something. I remember it was so fun. We were just playing kind of fancy and showing off a little bit. But I remember one year she had an amazing cornrows team, ended with like 10 or 11 goals or something.
And that was the highlight of her career, and why she made the world team was
Absolutely.
That was
Well,
it.
of course.
You go to her Instagram, that's the real life. Keeps playing.
Now, the funny thing with the age thing is Matt is the voice of Sherwood Lacrosse, with Stacey's son Carlos taking over for Tom Halsey and Joe Schramm. And in the men's game, they mostly made fun of the older guy who was Stacey's brother, Peter Smith. And he's a grandfather. In the girls' game, we made fun of the oldest player, who was Nevy Fernandez. Who is she even 30 yet?
Which is really sad.
So how do we get the women to keep playing as they're older?
I mean, Acasia
Acasia has a doctor's note, but like some of the women
note.
don't have doctor's notes.
Yeah. She'll
Love
be
to
back
play.
this year. You'll be back
Love
this
to
year.
play, but my husband would kill me if I got hurt.
No, you're not.
And then the other comment I
I got a
have,
doctor.
and we mentioned this with Ricky, is in the guys' game, there are some athletes who literally probably stopped playing in the 5th grade or the 7th grade. And the funny ones, because of their size, are Patrick Devitt, because he's so tall, Bo Hallworth, because he's enormous. And then you have like Will Ford, who's an amazing golfer. And those guys just show up and play lacrosse because they're athletes, and they're like, oh, my friends are playing, I'll play.
Yeah.
The women, it has become a thing where even if you played like a year of high school or 2 years of high school, you're like, oh no, it's just college players. Like it's such a high level that just athletes don't want to play. How do we convince women to be like, hey, you can keep playing lacrosse, not just because you didn't play in college doesn't mean you don't know how to play lacrosse.
PSA right here on this podcast, because everybody's going to listen to it and come on out and play. Everybody should play it.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to maybe, I don't know, maybe we need to spice it up somehow.
Yeah, somehow, because right now it's mostly high school girls that are playing and college girls.
I was thinking, what if we played sixes, like the Olympic Games? The Olympic game in LA will be a sixes format, so it's just like basketball, 6v6, no draws. There's one draw at the beginning, and it's back and forth. Now that'll be an issue because it's hard, but it's so much more fun for fans to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could do like a quarter of that and sort of showcase like what the Olympic game is going to look like.
I think that's a good idea.
And last year, you guys coached against each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And who won that? Like, that's an amazing coaching lineup. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Oh, yeah. I know. Right.
Is it because you didn't have enough time to to train your kids? Were you training them all summer long? How does that work?
I should have had a playbook. We should have been
Or you just show up and coach.
Out coach.
So in all the games, the men's and the women's, sometimes it's hard to find goalies. So in the early years of the boys' game, there were plenty of singles guys who were goalies, and we luckily had Brian Holman, who was still willing to play goalie in his 40s. But there's been years, over 25 years, where it's been hard to find goalies, especially on the women's side. And you guys have had some unusual goalies who stepped in for you. The one I'm thinking of is Jack Fracione, the All-American goalie from Penn State. Literally started playing goalie in the girls' game when he was 11.
Oh,
yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then
he was amazing back then.
And then when he turned 16, he was playing double headers in the girls' game and the men's game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jack. Does Persian Panther LLC? Is that part of the sponsorship? We have to mention Jack in the men's and women's side.
Yes.
That we get sponsorship.
He's our only sponsor right now.
Okay, no, I'm working. I have Jack's name everywhere.
Okay. And then we also had Jack Whiteford, I believe, play in the women's game, who was a goalie at Friends in the very early years.
Okay. Remember Lou Allen?
Lou Allen played in the
Allen
girls'
was
game.
awesome.
Yes.
But then you've also had, as is appropriate, some amazing. You have some amazing women's goalies.
Yes.
So who were some of those?
Kathy Herrick.
Katie Monahan.
Katie Monahan. Mary Brown.
Yep.
And last year, I believe it was Abby. I'm not sure which Francioli, but I think it was the one that went to Richmond.
Insane performance.
She was insane. She was a freshman and she won.
Like, whoa.
I feel like she won goalie of the
division.
Conference.
Yeah.
And just to give some of their resumes, Kathy Herrick was a Division III All-American at field hockey and lacrosse.
Lacrosse.
Mary Brown played at Harvard.
Yep.
Correct.
Who else did you say?
Katie Monahan.
Katie
Played at BC.
At BC.
Before I was there.
Okay.
Yep.
With Ricky, we did discuss how much the women's game has changed. Obviously, since you were in school, But when you were in school, there was not much elementary school or middle school lacrosse until you really started playing in high school, correct?
I started playing in 7th grade.
In 7th grade?
Yep.
And when you started playing,
yep.
it was rec.
Yep, it was
Correct.
rack. Rolling Knolls.
Okay.
Right up
So
the street.
have you noticed the game change from when the
Oh my
cornrows
gosh.
game, not just the women's game, but specifically the cornrows game, as you have people who have been playing since they were young?
It's faster now. I think last year with Downey, she sort of helped us tweak the rules, play more. I think it was it was high school rules where you can move on the whistle, things like that. We were a little stagnant there for a few years because we were playing rec league rules.
Right.
But I think that helped accelerate it and make it a little more exciting for people to watch.
And from my point of view, I'm usually stretching during the girls' game, but the quality of lacrosse. I did watch last year. I helped them announce, but the quality of the girls' lacrosse game was amazing.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Fast, so many good players, all high school, college level players, great athletes, and really they need some more people like me and Pete Waldron to kind of cool it down a little bit.
Right.
Slow it down.
Right.
Slow down the game. Welcome back. We are still live at the Karma Bar on Thorsby Hill. Open 24 hours a day. Just come on by. They don't take any money. Everything's free, so help yourself. We are now sitting with Brian Wood and Ty House. I don't know why Ty's here, but I'm glad Brian's here.
So Brian has grown up in Sherwood and raised his family from Sherwood. How many generations are you here?
Our grandkids are the 6th generation. We've owned the same house since 1929.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. And he is well known in the lacrosse world. He was a high school legend at St. Mary's, where he played with his brother, who was also from Sherwood, obviously, but also some other Sherwood names. Doug Poindexter, who was an All-American at University of Maryland, and Andy Smith, who played at University of North Carolina. And then he went to Hopkins, where he played with another Sherwood camper, Del Dressel. And again, his brother Todd. He was on the world team in 1986. And then he coached his kids, Bo and Blake Wood, who are the only people in Tufts lacrosse history to be Division III All-Americans. And he coached them at Severn. But the highlight of his lacrosse career was cornrows lacrosse.
Absolutely. And probably being here today to talk about it. That's the real highlight.
Absolutely.
So what we want to know about first is you grew up here since you were a little kid. Besides growing up the street from me and being like, man, that kid's going to be a good doctor someday. What was it like growing up in a community that was very sports oriented and had a sports oriented camp?
I think the uniqueness with Sherwood, one, having doctors always around,
That always helps.
is very helpful. I knew you had a good future. Sherwood Camp, I think the number one thing it teaches you is how to compete. And compete at everything. And, ping pong, to soccer, to lacrosse, to swimming, and, not be the best at everything, but learn to compete and become athletic and learn to win, and more importantly, probably learn to lose amongst your friends.
And then we also failed to mention that at Hopkins, Joe Callan from Sherwood recruited you there.
Yes. We knew the Cowan family, and Joe had been involved with Hopkins for a long, long time. So he made a couple phone calls to me during the process and tied it into Sherwood. It was nice to have a Sherwood tie-in there, especially when I got up there to Baltimore. He felt like a good Sherwood tie.
Absolutely. Okay. And it worked out pretty well.
It did.
And then part of the origin for the cornrows game is that you guys had some success as a Sherwood team in the Heroes over 35 league.
Correct.
So how did that start? Whose idea was that?
I think it was John Cheeks.
Okay.
I think, but there was a bunch of us all around, and they said, Heroes played over at the community college, and we said, well, we should put a team together, and everybody was all kind of for fun and all that until we made the playoffs, and then we made the championship game, and things got a little heated. And you got Brian Holman in the goal, was probably one of the most competitive people I've ever met in my life. John Cheek was there, Mac Ford, and then we had a lot of players that didn't really play in college, but just wanted to won the team for fun, and we went on and won the championship there, and that was a lot of fun. Doing it outside of Sherwood.
So one of the funny stories that I've heard, my uncle Pete, who I've done the math, who's about my age now, and he played at the University of Maryland and was a leading scorer, and he would put his helmet on in the car because he didn't want people to know how old he was when he got onto the field.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stories and a lot of chatter over a few beers afterwards.
Yeah.
About one of my favorites was, I think it was Terry O'Donovan, who didn't play lacrosse but was a good athlete growing up, and he was out there playing, and he says to me, "What do I do, Brian? What do I do?" And I said, "Well, put the stick right next to your ear, and when Mac Ford has the ball behind the goal, just run as fast as you can right out. And when the ball hits your stick, just fling it at the goal." And I think he got a shot off, but I think he missed.
That's pretty good.
For the record, Mac did hit him right in the
So in the early years of cornrows, that's what I remember was watching you and Mac and John Cheek be on the same attack.
Yeah.
Like that was special. But I actually looked at the field one time. Literally, the whole attack was in the Hall of Fame. The midfielders were James McIntyre and Billy Rule, who had both been in national championships, multiple national championships, and Matt Lewandowski, who was an All-American in Delaware. The defense was Brian Martin, who was an All-American, Doug Poindexter, who was an All-American, and me, who was the team doctor, and Brian Holman in the goal. So what do you remember about those early years when we were still in our 40s and we're making it competitive as strictly married versus singles?
Yeah, I think the roster was pretty phenomenal. When you look at it, and I try to explain that to some friends outside Sherwood, and they don't get it. That there's 300 people watching a pickup game, and people park their golf carts at 8 o'clock in the morning to reserve their seats. But the quality of play was pretty darn high. I do remember the field was a little small in tight quarters, but you've got all Americans at every position, and then you're playing against these young kids who are trying to prove something, and they were very good in their own right, and some of them became all Americans later in life as well.
It's almost like the pickup basketball in New York, Rucker Park. Have you seen when the NBA guys come in and then they try to put up 3-on-3 teams, and it's 20 people deep trying to watch a pickup 3-on-3 game, and it's so intense. It's the same here, the same vibe.
So one of my early memories of the game was when your son started playing. And I never asked you about this, but I've heard a rumor that before the game, not your sons, but your son's friends were kind of giving you a hard time. Like, hey, we're going to beat you guys this year. We're going to bury you. And by how I remember, we were down 4 with 4 minutes to go. And you and Mac just passed it back and forth and scored 5 minutes and 5 goals in 4 minutes, and we won by 1. And it was just like, oh yeah, I don't want to hear from these kids.
Yes.
And you and Mac just took over.
I think the bragging rights around the dining room table took over.
Yeah, big time, well deserved.
It was obviously so much fun, not just to play against Owen Blake, but their friends, and because they were all hanging around the house too, and it was a little bit of bragging rights, and Mac's a pretty good beater, and I can shoot the ball every once in a while pretty well too. So I do have to say that playing against them was a lot of fun. Playing with them on our team as we got older and we got to have them on our team was a lot of fun.
This is a lot more fun.
So I also remember a game where Steve Coppinger, who had a great game, he was still probably late 20s, early 30s, and I had coached him with my cousin Eric in grab lacrosse. And so I'd watched him kind of grow up, and we're in the huddle at the end of the game. We're down by 1, or maybe it's tied, and you call the whole team in, and you're calling the play. And it's like going to go from Mac to you to Steve Coppinger, and the play is for Steve Coppinger, and he scores it. And at Cornrows Lacrosse, we were like, how cool is it that Brian and Mac chose to give the ball to you?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of lacrosse in general is sharing the ball, but extra special in Cornrows weekend when you play with different people. I didn't even know Scott. I knew of him.
Remember the story.
And I remember, who he is and all that. But, in games like that, pickup games, and, and everybody goes down to Cornrows for cold beer and hot dog, and you start reminiscing about the old days, and the stories always get better as you get older. But, just playing with different people, meeting different people, different families is a really key component of the Cornrows lacrosse.
Yeah, and Sherwood.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
And in the men's game, we played married singles for a long time. But when you retired and Mac retired, it got a little unfair, and the singles started winning a lot. So then we started a little thing where we still played married singles, but we took like 1 player from their team or 2 players from their team. I think Bo and Blake started playing for the married team when they were probably 20, 21 years old.
Yeah, I think they were just about to graduate, and I think Chase Brown may have jumped over at the same time.
But I think the first single guy to play for the married team was Marcus Holman. And he was at Carolina, and we won that game 8-7, and he had 7 goals.
Marcus can shoot too.
Yes.
And he continues to do it week in, week out.
Yeah.
Even today, many, many years later, playing for his dad. Awesome game.
And then we also had the ultimate dad-son combination of Ryan Wade and Tucker Wade played against each other.
Yeah.
And the thing I remember about that is Ryan hadn't touched a stick in like 10 years. His shots were scattered all over. But as soon as he started Tucker grew up a little bit and he started playing catch Tucker, he dominated for a few years. So it was kind of like, we need 3 goals, he scored 4. We need 5 goals, he scored 6.
So my favorite Ryan Wade story is Jack Gracian was in the goal for the singles team. And, Jack went on to have an incredible career.
Absolutely.
You guys have talked to him. And Jack's in there, and he's all ready. And Ryan cuts, and I flip him the ball, and he catches it, and wings it behind his back in the lower corner. And Jack is still standing there like this. And the balls, and I walked over to Jack and said, "Don't worry. He did that against Team Canada to win in overtime when he played for the World Team. So you're okay, Jack."
And we should probably mention that Jack, I think, started playing for the married team when he was 17 or 18.
We'll cut that for Jack. Don't worry. That won't make it fun.
My Jack story is part of the fun of playing father-son is I've gotten to play against my son, Roddy. And I coached Roddy. I've watched every game he's ever played. I've never seen him score a goal left-handed, ever. So I'm over-covering him to the right. He goes left, and he does a wraparound on Jack, who had already sworn he would never let one of his friends score. And it went in. And Jack and I just looked at each other, and people were like, "Oh, Jack's not competitive." He literally texted me at 7:30 the next morning. I was waking up. He might have still been out, and he said, "We're playing zone next year," because he had some old slow defensemen that year. So the other thing in Sherwood is on and off, we've had after the day camp, there's been lacrosse programs at night, and the original one was run by my cousin, Rennie Smith. And the youngest people invited were my cousin, Eric, and myself. We were the only playgrounders, which is the youngest camp group allowed. And we're watching all these superstars who, to us, you were probably only 8 or 9 years old. But what are your memories of crab lacrosse?
Well, crab lacrosse was done by Rennie Smith, who coached at Maryland as well. But he took a crab net and put it in a bucket and then cemented the crab net in the bucket. And instead of goalies, you had these 2 crab nets on the end of the field. And it was kind of like a basketball game, 5-on-5, I think, maybe 6-on-6. And you would go back and forth, and you'd have to throw the ball into the crab net. And if you went in the crab net, you got a goal. And then the other team would, like I said, like that, so we'd just clear it and then go down and you'd play defense back and forth. So Rennie had a knack for just getting everybody involved and making it fun for everybody. But I was trying to explain that, I think in my Hopkins days that I learned to play crab lacrosse, and they were like, the Baltimore and New York Blue Bloods of like crab lacrosse. What the hell are this little Maryland guy talking about here?
That's right. Did Rennie ever teach you the big butt roll dodge?
I don't remember that.
Okay. He taught it to Jeff Johnson. It didn't work out for Jeff very well. So we hope you enjoyed not just another game, and we hope you come out this Saturday for the 25th anniversary of the Cornrows Lacrosse game, where maybe you'll be able to see Pete Waldron 25 years in a row make his first shot high and wide left. But seriously, we want to thank all the countless players, referees, so many players and so many moments we just couldn't mention. So many good high school players, D2 players, D3 players, D1 players who make up the rosters on both the women's and the men's game. And of course, if you have something that we left out, please leave in the comments. Please share it. And we want to thank our sponsors. So we have Trident Capital, Chesapeake Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, a division of the Center for Advanced Orthopedics, Lisa D, Reading is Fundamental, and of course, Persian Panther LLC.